equipo ascensor. It is Spanish for the elevator club, but what folks in Spain mean when they use the term is yo-yo club. When you think about it, it's actually a far better term to refer to those sides that cycle up and down the divisions. I mean, I have never seen a football team walk the dog or do that stupid cradle thing. I don't know, I hate yo-yos. Elevators, though, exist for a singular purpose, to go up and down. Sometimes you reach the top or bottom, but one thing is for certain, you never stay on a single floor for too long. Boy oh boy does that describe Granada's CF. So their longest run in any single division was a 14-year spell in the Spanish Segunda B division, and that took place from 1988-89 to 2001-2002. There was also a 12-year stint in the Spanish Segunda from 1945-46 to 56-57, while the longest time spent in the top flight for Granada was an 8-year visit between 1968-69 and 75-76. Since starting play in 1931, Granada has been promoted on 14 occasions and relegated 11 times. Now, this is not the highest total in Spain, and we'll get to that more later on in the video. What makes Granada special is the variety of promotions and relegations it has endured over the years. This is the purest form of equipo ascensor. The thing about Granada is, though, they have done this in just about the most unremarkable way possible. Their journey up and down Spain's football ladder is completely unmemorable. That is kind of a shame if we're being honest. Why is that? Well, Granada is one of the most memorable places on the face of the earth. It is a city of history, of beauty, and there's just something about it that you can't describe. There's a feeling you get when you're there that just cannot be explained. Even removed from the tourist side of the city, away from the tombs of Ferdinand and Isabella at the Royal Chapel of Granada, and the exchange students piling in the Granada Diaz. Been there, done that, shout out G10. There is just something about the city so undeniably remarkable, truly unforgettable. The city's soccer team, it just may be the exact opposite of that. Granada, over the years, has just had the most unremarkable of existences. Now, don't get me wrong. The city, the fans, they love the team. They care about the team. They passionately support it and want it to do well. Why that is sort of a mystery. I mean, there's a question there that should be asked. The only silverware ever won by the club were lower league division titles and preseason friendly tournaments. They did make a Copa del Rey final in 1959. There was also that Europa League run a few years back. Across 27 seasons in Spain's top flight, Granada has finished in the top half of the table on 6 occasions. Now contrast that with this reality. 3 times in the club's history, it has finished dead last in La Liga, or what was previously known as the Premier Division. At the absolute best of times, it is a club fighting for a mid-table finish at the highest level. And at the worst of times, Granada has found itself adrift in the sea that is the Tercera Division. Unrelated note, my favorite thing to do in Football Manager is to take Melilla, one of the Spanish enclaves in Morocco, all the way up through Spain's just absolutely brutal football pyramid. It's a challenge, and it's one I recommend. Anyway, when it comes to Granada, the only consistent is inconsistency. This is a club that has burned through managers like singles at a strip club. Only one gaffer in the team's entire history has managed to complete 3 full seasons at Los Carmenes, that being Diego Martinez. And after completing that 3rd season, he had had enough and opted to take a gap year. Joaquin Piero and Lucas Alcaraz were the closest to finishing 3 seasons, but ultimately couldn't get it over the line. Alcaraz, for his part, would be hired and fired by the club on 2 other separate occasions. Both of those stints, though, were much shorter than that initial spell. Just how bad is Granada when it comes to managers? Well, in 2017, they rang up Tony Adams to come in and give the job a go. It should be noted, Adams hadn't held a football managerial post since 2011 when he flamed out of the Azerbaijani League. His career record of 33 wins, 42 draws, and 44 losses didn't exactly scream top-flight savior. Unsurprisingly, things went poorly for Adams. He lost all 7 games during his time in Andalusia and was promptly told, don't return. To better understand the club's yo-yoing or elevator rides or whatever you want to call it, we need to go back in history. In its first 3 years of existence, Granada would record 3 consecutive promotions, and they looked on the cusp of reaching the Spanish top flight. Then the Spanish Civil War broke out and football was postponed for 3 years. When it returned, Granada would seal their introduction to what was then called the Primera Division. They hung on there by the absolute skin of their teeth for 4 seasons before being relegated, and then for the next 35 seasons, well, they just ping-ponged between the Segunda and Primera divisions. Then the 1980s hit and things started trending downward, shuttling between the Segunda and Segunda B before the side finally found itself in the Spanish Tercera. This is the place no Spanish club really wants to find themselves in. It is just a slog to get out and get to safety. There was, though, a bit of a silver lining, I suppose, for Granada in this part of the story. 2009 rolls around. Gianpaolo Pozzo then buys the club, which helped turn their fortunes around. Sort of. Granada would end up being part of that glob of clubs owned by the Pozzo family. So obviously they had owned Udinese in Italy, and then they bought Granada, and eventually Watford would join in the fold. They would just go on to trade players in cash for seemingly no reason at all. I don't know how this wasn't money laundering, but apparently it was not. Eventually Granada was freed from the Pozzo family when Chinese businessman John Jiang, which I know is not his birth name, but it's what he goes by in both the Spanish and English press, purchased the club. He came in like every other foreign owner in the 2010s, making huge promises, talking about how he was going to stabilize the club and they're going to be successful, this, that, and the other. However, his tenure as owner of Granada has been curious. Sometimes he's around, sometimes he's not. Sometimes people are paid, sometimes they aren't paid. In many ways, it is the embodiment of Granada as a football club. He is the equipo ascensor of ownership. As all of that was unfolding, the team unsurprisingly bounced around with no clear vision in sight. Meanwhile, Jiang's other football-related endeavors were not going so well. He had also purchased a 60% stake in Parma, but saw that slashed to 30% when he couldn't provide financial backing to the club before being removed entirely. A similar story played out in Granada in 2020 when he was suddenly removed as club president, and just the entire confusing situation became even more apparent. He owns a company that owns the team, but that company didn't want him involved anymore, either with the company or the club. The entire thing, it's just such a mess, and it's all so stupid, and it's why someone should do something about the ownership of football clubs in Europe and globally. I mean, this situation should not be allowed to happen, but it has been allowed to happen. That diatribe aside, things in Granada appeared heading for a resolution last year when Morningstar Sports Group, a US-based outfit owning teams in both the United States and Mexico, were close to having a bid accepted. Then nothing ever happened on that front. Granada were relegated once more, and things just remain in a state of flux. Ultimately, Granada is not the leading El Equipo Ascensor. That honor belongs to Mallorca, who have been promoted or relegated on 36 different occasions. That being said, the island side has had its fair share of success over the years. They won a Copa del Rey in 2003. The club played in the 1999 UEFA Cup Winners' Cup final. Mallorca even has a pair of third-place La Liga finishes over the years. They've also had a host of good players come through their ranks. Their fans have been treated to a lot of exciting footballers. We're talking about the likes of Samuel Eto'o, Walter Pandiani, Lauren, Jonas Gutierrez, Alan Hutton. What? I had totally forgot that happened, but yeah, Alan Hutton spent some time in Mallorca in the 2010s on loan. I don't even know. Let's move past it. While Mallorca has had its fair share of interesting talent, when you think of great players for Granada over the years, who even springs to mind? Maybe Alain Niom, a past his prime Roberto Soldado, a past his prime Carlos Bacca? For me personally, it's Fran Rico, just because I really thought he was a great player, and injuries unfortunately cut short his career. But you get the idea here. It is really slim pickings for those in attendance at Los Carmenes. It's just there have not been a lot of players over the years to have entertained. Perhaps the biggest difference, though, between Granada and Mallorca is the fact most of the latter's time has been spent solely between La Liga and the Spanish Segunda. Granada has been moving up and down the Spanish football pyramid. When you look at the spread of years spent in each league, it's pretty interesting. That's because there's just a certain evenness to it. 27 seasons in La Liga, 35 seasons in the Segunda, and 22 seasons in Segunda Division B. Never in one place for too long, just like an elevator in good working order. Now, Granada finds itself back in the Spanish Segunda, the second division. I don't know where they are going, but history does tell us the team won't be there for very long. Whether they hit the button to go up or down is anyone's guess, really. The thing is, no one probably even cares where they end up or down, apart from their extremely loyal fans who have suffered far more than you or I could ever imagine. An unremarkable existence of movement. The phrase Vamos Granada has an entirely different meaning when you are el equipo ascensor. Thank you for watching this video for the story on how soccer's biggest underdogs became the sport's most hated champion, video upper right hand corner of your screen, and to understand why US soccer is just a disaster right now, video lower right hand corner of your screen. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis, this is The Touchback, Vamos Granada, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.